All right. I got a question about how to use the IP command, which is a great question because I personally find IP so confusing often. So, IP is basically the new way to answer a bunch of questions about your network on Linux. If we look at the man page, maybe we can see how new it is. I guess 2011, maybe it's 8 years old. It says it was added in Linux 2.2. It's part of this package called IP Route 2, which also I think is the package with SS in it. Is that right, or did I? Hard to say. It doesn't say right here. Actually, we can look really quick. I believe that if we can just look at the list of things in IP Route 2. I know you can do this from the command line, and I can literally never remember how to do it. And then I always end up. No, this is not how you do it. No, files in package Ubuntu. All I want is the files in IP Route 2. Maybe today is the day I'll learn to do it from the command line. Okay, let's do it like this. dpackage-query. You can tell I've never done this before because it doesn't show up in my history. Is SS in there? TC is in there. TC is a very important tool because you can use it to do things like drop 50% of the packets coming out of the system, which is pretty fun. There's a tool called Bridge in there, and SS is in there. Okay, so I was right. SS stands for socket statistics, and it basically tells you like which ports are running on your systems, like which so like what's an example of this I have right now? I want some TCP connections. Like I have something listing on port 111 for some reason that I don't actually understand. Dropbox is running some servers on my system. Who knows why? There's this thing running on port 8084 that I know it's like a server that I wrote. So yeah, SS just shows you what's running on your system. Port 631 I know is CUPS, the print server. So SS and IP are part of IP Route 2, which is sort of like the new networking package for Linux, I guess, since 2011. But we're not talking about SS right now. We're going to talk about IP. So, what is in IP? IP has a bunch of subcommands, which I have only really ever used on netns, very rarely, link, address, and route. And I think that's it. I think just those four. I've kind of heard of XFRM because that has something to do with VPNs, I think. I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyway, we're just going to do link, address, and route because that's mostly all I know. So let's start with IP route. That's kind of the one I'm most familiar with because I've looked at this a lot when doing container stuff because sometimes if you're working with Kubernetes or whatever, you'll have this like software-defined networking layer, and that will set up a bunch of new routes to make packets to like specific ranges of IP addresses go somewhere special. I'm just on my laptop right now, so the route table is not that interesting. Basically, what the route table does is it's like for this set of IP addresses, so like 169.254.0.0/16 is like it's basically 169.254. Because each of these is sort of like 8. So /16 is the first half. 192.168.1.0/24 is like 192.168.1 point whatever. And it says my default route is via 192.168.1.1, and that's my router, which is next to me, just a couple meters away. So IP route list does that. And one thing that I learned relatively recently, because I was like, wait, these are the only IP addresses on my system, right? Like, for example, if I do like ping 127.0.0.1, that works, right? And that's an IP address I have. So I was like, well, why? And also, I know that packets to this is localhost, right? 127.0.0.1, and actually you can do 1.7.2.3.4. I think like you can do 1.7 dot whatever, and that's always going to be just like on your computer. It's never going to leave your computer. Um, and I noticed that like that wasn't represented in IP route list, and like what's up with that, right? So what I learned is you can do you might have seen this before in the autocomplete IP route list table all, and there you get a whole bunch of stuff, including this thing, local 127.0.0.0/8, and dev elo basically means do it on the loopback interface, which is just like on my computer. So this is the thing that makes everything going, everything on 127 just go to my computer. And I don't know what the point of the second rule is. That's just for 127.0.0.1. Maybe someone else knows. And then this is sort of the equivalent of that, I guess, for IPv6. This is like the IPv6 version of that IP address. Yeah. And then, so what else? This is kind of, what is this IP address actually? I wonder, because there are these, let's just look it up really quick. Oh, that's not going to work. That's going to try to go to that IP address. I want to Google it. Okay. Yeah. So it says that these are like link local IP addresses, which means that they're supposed to be inside sort of your local network, which is why my OS has set it up this way. So I guess something, maybe if I had another device on my local network, I could set it up to have one of these IP addresses, and it means it's not on the internet. I know that there's also like the 10 dot prefix that people use a lot for local networks. All right, so that's the IP route list. This is the route table. It basically says these IP addresses go here, and this stuff I like cannot read. Like, what is metric 1000 or 600? I don't know. All I kind of understand from this is like it's like device WLP3SO. That I know that WLP3SO is my wireless card. So it's saying like use the wireless card to send these packets, and then yeah. Other than that, I guess source 192.168.1.149 is saying to set that as the source IP on the packet. Though I don't know why it wouldn't do that anyways. That's my IP address. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's kind of all I understand in here. Okay, what else do we have in IP? We have IP link list. So here I have my 3 links. So these are basically the devices that I have in my computer. So I have LO, which is the loopback interface, which is just like things. It's not a real physical device. It's just like things that are happening locally on my computer, and things that go through this interface never leave my computer. There's ENP0S25, which is my Ethernet. My Ethernet card. I'm not using Ethernet right now because I'm on Wi-Fi. So I guess it says state down because of this. And again, like these words like QLAN, I think I know QDisc is kind of, it stands for like Q discipline and it has something to do with TC. But I don't know. TC is that command line tool. Apparently I've run the command TC QDisc show in the past. And there are some things here set up for my wireless card, I guess, by default. And there are some different things set up for my Ethernet card, and some other more different things set up for the loopback interface. But who knows? Not me right now. So those are the links. And does that have, those don't say the IP address that's associated with that. So there is, oh, but it does have the MAC address, which is useful to know. And I wonder, is there a way to set my MAC address from the command line? is this something that, not IPython. You can see that I wonder, because sometimes it's sort of like maybe you're on a Wi-Fi network that says like, oh, you can only use 15 minutes of internet, but maybe it's tracking you by your MAC address. So then if you change your MAC address, you can get more Wi-Fi. Well, let's just see if I can change my MAC address. Change MAC address Linux. Because maybe there's just a Stack Overflow question that says how to do this. And this might like boot me off the internet, but that's not so bad. Yeah, IP link set. Okay, let's try to change my MAC address. And then this will only really, I think, take effect until I restart my system, so I'm not super worried about it. I might end up not on the internet anymore, but we'll see what happens. So let's just change this from CF to FC, who knows. And I don't want F0. Actually, I'm gonna set it for my wireless, for my Ethernet card. EMP0S25. Oh, I guess I need to do that as root. That makes sense. Okay, and then if we do IP link list again, then I have the new MAC address. How fun. Okay, wait, no, okay, so let's do that to the wireless card and see if it, like, we get booted off the internet or what, right? Because it's kind of interesting. So we can just change this to something fun. I don't know, AB, BA, AB, BA, AB, BA. Yeah, that's the MAC address, right? Is it? Device or resource busy, sure. So I guess it's like you're using your wireless card. I can't just change the MAC address right now. That makes sense. And actually that's what it says here, right? It's like you need to turn off networking. Okay, but we could do that, right? Does that work? No, that is not how we turn off networking. All right, well, no, it could be fun. How do I do this? Does it say how to? Oh, maybe it's this. It says the above should work on Debian and Ubuntu, which is what I am. And I guess those were for Red Hat. Okay, great. So it wants me to put in my password, which I got wrong, of course. So we stop networking. We're going to get ifconfig WP3SO. Who knows? Okay. So I was sort of able to change my MAC address, but not on the wireless card I'm actually using. But I know that there is a way to do this somehow. All right. Well, that shows me my MAC address. What else does IP let you do? So we can change our MAC address and look at the devices we have. We looked at our route table. Let's look at IP address. So this says, right, this is where we can see our IP address. I kind of have a hard time getting used to IP address because I'm so used to doing ifconfig, which kind of gives you similar information. But basically what this tells me is that my IP address is 192.168.1.149 on my local network. And I use this, the main way I use this information is sometimes I have this like local server that I preview my blog on. Or like, what's an example of this? Oops. Let's make that a little bigger. Okay, yeah. So like, this is like wizardzines.com, whatever, which I'll preview on like localhost 1313. But sometimes I want like my partner in my house to look at it, and then I'll just put in like 192.168.1.149 1313, and then someone else in my house can like look at the preview of the site to maybe see if there's something that just to read something before I like put it on the internet. That's the most common way I use my local IP address. Usually for blog posts that I'm writing, because I have the same system for my blog. So you can use IP address to see, well, basically to get your IP address, which I guess is pretty easy to remember. I didn't think about that way instead of ifconfig. And ifconfig is sort of the older tool. Maybe if we look at ifconfig, it'll tell us how old it is. Yeah, so it says that this is from 2008. But it must be older than that, I feel like. Maybe that's just when that man page was last updated was in 2008. So what else is in IP? We did link, address, route. What do I do with IPNetNS? Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, you can do some, I guess, pretty fun things with IPNetNS. So, NetNS stands for network namespace, which is basically like a way to give programs like their own network space where like they can have where you can have a server that runs and listens on a port but doesn't share sort of that like space, that like port space with the host operating system. This is what containers use. This is why you can have like 10 containers which are all using port 8000, and they don't conflict with each other. It's because they each have their own network namespace. And so it looks like, I think there's IPNet NS exec. Yeah, and so you can do IPNet NS exec, which will show you what's happening in that network namespace. Oops, I'm not sure what happened there. And if we run ifconfig in this new network namespace we just created, NS1, you'll see that there isn't anything, which makes sense because we just made this network namespace and there's kind of nothing in it. Like if you do like curl google.com, it's not going to work because it doesn't have any networking set up at all. And kind of a fun exercise you can do is to like start with like a blank network namespace and try to get it to work. I did this once. I wrote a blog post about this. Oh, and you can also just like do IP and netns exec ns1 bash, and that will give you a shell where you can sort of do things and start adding and start like playing around. Yeah, I sort of, I mean, we can see how to like start setting up the networking because it's sort of fun. I think I wrote about it on my blog. Did I? IP addresses and routing? Is that it? Nope. Maybe. Network interface. What's a network interface? 2017. Okay, yeah, this is when I did this. So how do you add... Okay, so let's try to add a network interface to our like... So let's run bash in our new network interface that we just made. And then can we run that? Okay, cool. And now if we run ifconfig, before we didn't have any network interfaces, and now we have one. Now we have the loopback interface. And if we look at our route table, now you can see we have something in our route table. Whereas before I believe we didn't because there were no network interfaces at all. So there's kind of like nothing to do in the route table. And then now you can sort of start to do networking very slowly. Like you can run a server like on this, like inside here. So we could do like netcat -L7000. So wait, we can. Well, okay, let's just do nc-L7000. So that kind of like makes a server. And we can start another thing in here in the same network namespace. And nc-L7000. Oh, right. So if we want to do curl localhost 7000 to send a network request, then we see the network request in this network namespace. But like this has our host network namespace, like the normal network namespace that we started with, can't see this at all. So I think it's kind of fun to like use IP to create network namespaces like this and kind of mess around. It's a kind of good way to get like the fundamentals of like what is a link, right? Like what's a port, what's happening. And it's fun to like think about what happens like if you don't have any network interfaces. That's like a kind of an absurd thing. I think that's everything, just about everything I know about IP, because I really don't know about sort of these other things. All I know is like how to get the list of links, and then the IP addresses attached to those links, and then and then the routes that are attached to those. That's what I do with IP.